Good evening. Thank you for being here today. We are coming in as I am speaking. Attendees are joining in. Fast and easy. All right. We have quite a few people here. As soon as people have joined in, we will give it like maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and then we will start the proceedings. In the meantime, thank you very much for being here today, dear audience. Couple of reminders, this is going to be a dialogue and a conversation, so make sure to make use of this opportunity to the maximum and ask away. If you do not ask, the answer is always no. So please put those questions in the question and answer box of this webinar. You are already used to attending a lot of these, so you know where the question and answer box is. Listen to what the panel has to say about the topic. There'll be quite a few thoughts coming into your head at the time. Please don't be shy and put them in the question and answer box, and we will try to take as many as possible. Vivek, I think, Amit, how are we doing on time? Okay, right. Vivek, I think let's start and people can sort of keep joining in. So it's over to you, my dear friend. Let's go for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you today. It gives me immense pleasure to announce the next LinkedIn Local India Online. The theme for today is technology hiring, opportunities and obstacles. My name is Vivek Chadha, and I, along with Preeti Chaudhary and Colonel Amit Verma, will be your host for today. We have a stellar panel lineup today, and I'm very happy to introduce them. We have with us Aditya Vikram, a global executive search lead for AP Moller Maersk. We have Taruna Reddy, Director of Talent Acquisition, Publicis Sapient. We have with us Rajan Chelappa. He is the Head of Recruitment at Telstra India. Gangadhar Salimat, Talent Acquisition Leader at Walmart Global Tech India. And we have with us Nishant Chandra. He is the co-founder and CEO at Newton School. I heartily welcome all our panelists, and I thank you for investing your time to join us today. I also thank all of our audience for coming and participating in today's LinkedIn Local India Online, and hope that you derive immense value from the same. As it is said, your quality of life will depend on the questions you ask. So ladies and gentlemen, ask away your questions today. Please keep them ready and put them in the Q&A box that you see at the bottom of your screens. As we look into the future with technology leading the way, I look forward to today's insights and conversations. So without much further ado, I request Preeti to introduce LinkedIn Local to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek. A very warm welcome and a good evening once again to dear audience and panelists and my co-host today. Quickly, couple of things about LinkedIn Local India. It is a LinkedIn property, an online to offline meetup concept, wherein members who are either connected to each other or not yet connected to each other connect, communicate, and collaborate in a physical environment. This is pre-COVID time that I'm talking about. The Pan-India series of these meetup concepts started in 2017. Today we are in 2020. In the last 6 months, what essentially has happened is, with much of our lives, everything is moved virtually. And that is why we are on a LinkedIn Local India online today. That is what LinkedIn Local is all about. It's all about learning from each other. It's all about conversations. It's all about networking. It's all about relationship building to leverage all of us in our chosen fields of life, careers, friendships, and the rest of it. With that, I am so happy to be here today. I'm looking forward to this excellent and insightful conversation that is bound to ensue on this particular theme of today, which is technical hiring, opportunities and obstacles. And being the glass half full person, I am going to be focused more on the opportunities than the obstacles, because I'm sure with the grit and gumption of us human beings, nothing is impossible. Even impossible as I am possible in it. So with that, let me introduce the first speaker for today. Happens to be my dear friend Adi from Maersk. And I would invite Adi now to share his views on the topic for today. And a quick reminder once again of that happens to be technical hiring, opportunities and obstacles. And a quick reminder to the audience once again, please, while you are listening to all of the initial thoughts being said here, that is when your gray cells will start kicking in. So please start putting those questions, like Vivek said, into the question and answer box that you see at the bottom of your screens. We will take them up at the 35th minute mark from right now. And remember, this is a conversation and a dialogue, and that can't be one way. So please let them keep coming in. With that, over to you, Adi, and let us and in onto what you think of this particular topic and enlighten us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Firstly, I actually want to begin by saying a big hello to all of the viewers who are who've tuned in today. I hope everyone's doing well. Thank you to Preeti, Colonel Amit, and Vivek as well for this opportunity. I just mentioned it to to the other panelists a while back. This is my first webinar, so I'm hoping I'll be able to do justice. I'm really excited to be here and look forward to engaging in conversations with with everyone. Now, I actually want to take this opportunity and talk a little about Musk, right? And I'm sure we'll get into the challenges and opportunities in a while anyway. As we think about technology, it has honestly been at the forefront of the transformation journey that Musk has been on, especially over the past few years, which wasn't always the case, right? If I take a step back, and if you think about shipping and logistics in general as an industry, you'd probably think large warehouses, distribution centers, large physical cargo as well, right? And for the most part, a very pen and paper heavy dominated kind of an industry. And so interestingly enough, that is where Maersk, took upon itself to drive the transformation journey. And it was a huge strategic shift in mindset and in strategy as well. Primarily because until about 4 or 5 years ago, virtually 99% of technology was outsourced at Musk, right? And we obviously decided to move away from that. Obviously, a pretty significant problem statement. And what our leadership team really decided to do was to establish a world-class technology and development center here in Bangalore. We did that back in 2018. Still for the most part feels like a startup within a large company, which I think is a testament to how we've really grown and matured along the way. I'm glad to share that while the journey has been slightly bumpy, I think we've taken a lot of learnings on the way. We're close to 3 years old now in Bangalore. We've already hired close to 500 engineers on the ground, and we're slated to hire another 600 technologists as well. So there's plenty of opportunities, be it interns, be it architects or directors, we're hiring right across the board. What I would say differentiates Maersk, right? If you think about some of the other peers that we have, especially in the shipping and logistics industry, is that we've now gotten a bit of a head start, especially as we think about technology, as we think about digitization of this industry as well. The Technology and Development Center that we've built in Bangalore focuses primarily on solving large-scale complex problems. And the shift for us has been moving away from being known as this point A to point B shipping container company, right? And today we are changing the narrative to become an end-to-end supply chain and a logistics provider for all of our customers, and providing all of these solutions at the tip of their fingers. So if our customers want to do business with us, they don't have to spend the best part of their day filling out 1,000 different forms. It's no longer a pen and paper experience for them. Instead, we're truly building deep capabilities across product and platform development, mobile applications, UX, UI, you name it, right? And we're also helping Maersk become a much more data-driven organization. And so a lot of focus on big data, data sciences and machine learning, and also some really interesting and cool stuff that we're doing by way of blockchain, IoT, and so forth. And just a sneak peek, but we ship over 1 million containers every year across the globe. And today, over 80% of our containers have IoT devices in them. Right, and a lot of these solutions, a lot of these products are have been developed at our Bangalore over the past couple of years. The opportunities are limitless. Right, we're responsible for close to 20% of all global trade, despite the pandemic, as you think about everything that's happened more recently across the globe, despite the pandemic, I'm really proud to share that as an organization, as a company, we've had an outstanding 12 months. In fact, the last 8 consecutive quarters, we've kind of outperformed. And there's a lot of growth slated up ahead as well. With that, I'm just going to close out my opening statement by saying, feel free to apply, right? Please apply. A ton of open, exciting positions across levels, and not just at Bangalore, but at our office in Pune as well. Once again, thank you for having me, and excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Adi. And first things first, congratulations on finishing 30 years in India with the logistics arm. So well done, you and the entire team right there. Couple of quick things to bring into attention for the audience here. Like Adi said, so they are looking to hire women technologists as well, and I'm pretty chuffed about that. They are looking at hiring 600 people, as he said, across functions, roles, and specs, not just in Bangalore, but in Pune as well. So if you are there, please go to www.musk.com careers, and there you go. Bingo. With that, a quick reminder, the question and answer box is starting to get populated now. There are a couple of questions there already. If you are not there yet, then please do come in. Start writing, because now the food for your thought is coming in. With that, let me go to Rajan. And Telstra, an Australian telecommunication company, I'm really excited to know, as somebody who's looking after the entire end-to-end recruitment for that particular company, what are the opportunities and what are the challenges? And I'm looking forward to hearing Rajan next. Over to you, Rajan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Preeti. And honestly, this is just it's just a great experience for me, because while we keep having conversations about work, right? This is a conversation about work, but in a nice, private and probably a much more collaborative kind of a setting. So it's great to be here. And while of course I've done all of this probably physically, this is the first time I'm doing it virtually too. So Aditya, I think you and me are on the same board on several spaces, right? Let me probably take my own story as a bit of a lens into why this is unique, right? So the topic today is about, how easy or how hard is it to get an opportunity? And of course, I'm sure all of us have seen the media talking about the fact that people are losing jobs, things are very difficult, and all of that. And obviously it's a doom and gloom scenario, and I'm sure all of you have heard about this. I joined Telstra 2 months ago, right? Bit of an oxymoron, really, because if it's doom and gloom, what am I doing here with a job, right? So that's question number one. Question number two is I have not met anyone from Telstra yet, except the security guards, because I had to go and pick up my laptop. Now, it's a great thing when is to talk the talk, which is virtual hiring is great, virtual onboarding is great. There's no problem. Why don't you come on board? But it's a very different experience when you're on the other side and actually experiencing it as a candidate. So for me, honestly, the last 2 months have been very surreal, because 2 days ago I was working for another company, all virtually, and suddenly I have a completely different set of colleagues, a completely different relationship, and an organization to build. So I think a lot of what we'll take away from this is that there is a tremendous amount of opportunity. The question really is about where it is available, right? How to find it, and also knowing, what some of those pitfalls are. And let's understand this, right? India is definitely emerging, and this is, I think, I'm preaching to the choir here. All of you know, India is definitely the destination for IT pretty much across the world. So it's never a question about whether this is the right place. It's about whether these are the right people. And I'm sure Nishant will talk to that in a little bit, because that's exactly what he's focusing on. Every time we go to a B school, or a T school, we end up seeing these extremely smart kids. And all we're hoping for is, why can't everyone be like this? And the unfortunate thing is, that if only that was real, right? Because there's so much demand in the market. There's so much competition. Obviously, they're going out there. They're doing, very interesting things and building their own spaces. So some of that is definitely learning for us, which is how to catch them young, right? And make sure that we help that talent grow. And this is something that I've done probably even in my previous stints. But here at Telstra, and honestly, Telstra is a name that I've known for a good 17, 18 years, because they've been very popular in the outsourcing space. They've like most other telecom giants, they've obviously found India a great place to move a lot of their offshoring work to. So they're a very large premium customer with some of the organizations like with the service organization that I'm sure you're all familiar with them. The play for me was, and I think this was actually the clincher that I heard when I had my first conversation, was that the first mobile call that took place, and obviously mobile now is ubiquitous. The fact that we're having this conversation virtually itself is it just still amazes me about the fact that only about 20 years ago I was stacking away on my probably 1100 phone and trying to send messages, and look at where we are, right? All of this is, and I'm connected on my phone to this conversation. So it's ridiculous how far we've gotten. But a little bit of connectivity back to India for me was the fact that the first phone call made in India was apparently between I think the telecom minister and Jyoti Basu was the chief minister of West Bengal, was made on a Telstra line. All right. I didn't know this. This was in 1995, and apparently all the things that we're doing here today, right, are started obviously, a long time ago, right? And so there is obviously some very deep connections that the organization has with India, and that's also why the investment that's taking place in actually building out a center here. So we have something called the the ICC, and essentially what we're looking out is to build out an innovation space, right? And we are relatively young and probably in the same size as what Aditya is with his company. We're about 700 strong and growing pretty quickly, right? And hiring pretty much across the telecom space. I would say, like most brand names that come into India, which we don't necessarily recognize, but there's a lot of stories behind it, right? Another interesting snippet for those of you to know is that Telstra is actually covers, I think, 40% of all of the internet data that gets processed across Asia Pacific is on a Telstra line. So essentially, if there's 50 people on this call, 40% of you are actually having this conversation on a Telstra line. So which is why I think we don't respect how much how technology is ubiquitous, right? And how much it's going to continue to be this way. Absolutely feel that it's just about identifying those opportunities, and we'll be able to really come on top as both as organizations and as individuals and as a country, right? And with that, I'm going to stop and pass it back to Preeti.
Thank you very much for that, Rajan. So, audience, from here, what we can take is this is a young company that is in the growth phase, that is only going to go up in terms of trajectory of hiring. So then again, please look up www.telstra.com/careers and go right in. For anything else, the panel is available on LinkedIn, so please reach out. With that, I already see a lot of questions coming in, so I think my couple of reminders have already worked. But then again, let me say again, please keep those questions coming in, because we will get into conversation more pretty soon. Before that, let us get Taruna into the conversation as well. And I am excited to hear about what she has to say in terms of a pre-conversation that we've had a couple of days back. And it's over to Taruna, to enlighten us in terms of what she thinks, where she's going, and where is Publicis Sapient into this entire thing. And something really, really exciting and huge numbers is what she's going to be talking about. So I can only give you that much. And for the rest, let's go over to Taruna. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Preeti. And hello, everybody. I'm Taruna, and I'm part of Publicis Sapient. As you know, it's one of the biggest consulting companies in the world, and we are 15,000 people strong across the globe. And we're present in 21 countries, and just in India, we're about 11,000 people strong. So, that India, it is very India-centric and India-focused. So all our strategies and the vision for the company is very much towards India and the whole, spiel. So in terms of the entire pandemic and the situation that we're in, the tech hiring is still going strong. The obstacles, I think the first thing is we should remove that word because we're just looking at it as challenges to be solved. Okay, that's the hat we have on, and I know that everybody in this panel agrees because we're all doing it. We just have to roll our sleeves up and move along with it, right? So if there's anything that this time has taught me, it's to be tenacious, it's to be agile, and it is to transform, right? So as you know, Publicis Sapient, we're focused on digital business transformation. So that still remains our focus. As we speak, I have about 1,400 roles open with Sapient across Bangalore, Gurgaon, Noida, and a couple of them in Mumbai as well. Having said that, these are specialized roles because Sapient is not just a services organization. We do consulting, which means you expect our consultants to go into a place to actually solve something. So you need to have your thinking hats on, and you need to have that X factor. You need to bring in solutions with you because that's when you are brought in. So if I say I want a Java person, I just don't want someone who knows Java. I want the whole spiel, right? They should know what comes before Java, and they should know what comes. They should know everything that's related to Java, right? So when I mean this, what I mean by this is they need to know about DevOps, they need to know about CI/CD, they need to have knowledge on cloud. I am not looking at a full stack guy, but someone who knows everything, right? So this leads me directly to Nishant and Newton, which is helping upskill a lot of people. And trust me, the moment that we see that candidates have invested in themselves and using this time, especially during the lockdown, all of us are blessed with 3-4 hours extra in their lives, thanks to the non-commute part in Bangalore. So if you look at it positively and actually invest that time to upskill yourself, I think you're going to be a lot better. Having said that, something that Sapient quickly did was adapt. Okay, so we've adapted technology like there is no tomorrow. As it is, it's a company that's very it's very tech positive, right? If there is something new, if there is a platform that's introduced, we will try it, right? So when a company like that is thrown into this space, we actually started onboarding people. So from 15th of March, virtually, we yeah the India wide, it was not even a lockdown, but Sapient decided that we're not going to take a chance, we're not going to go into office. So 13th of March, Friday the 13th, was the last I saw work, and 16th of March was a Monday, and we did a virtual onboarding, and we had the laptops couriered, even though everything was working. So we're early adopters in terms of technology and in terms of trying new processes. I think that's been really good. um, the whole aspect of not being reactive but proactive to any situation is very helpful, and that's applicable to you as as an applicant. You don't just go and click on every job that's available and apply, right? You understand the job role, you understand the job description, put yourself there. Make sure that you see yourself and you envision yourself in that role, and then you apply. And the moment you start putting on this lens, you're going to see that your whole perspective to applying for a job is going to change, and it's not just a click of a button, right? And the second thing that I'd really like to bring to everyone's notice, especially to my young friends, is that if it's your first job or if it's your second job, price is not that important. I think you should look at the big picture and look at the value that you bring and what value that company or proposition is going to add to you. So the moment you put price ahead of value, you kind of commoditize yourself. So I think that's these two aspects. If you keep in mind, your job search is going to be that much better. So with that, I think I'll hand it over back to you, Preeti.
Okay. Quickly, Taruna, just remind us, you are not really looking at campus hires at this point in time, are you? What is the kind of sort of entry level? If you can just talk about that, touch upon that very briefly, and then I'll move on to the next panelist. Over to you. Thank you.
So Preeti, we have a very robust campus program in place. So we actually go to IIT, NIT, and BITS, and a couple of triple ITs as well. So there's a very planned strategy to bring in the students in, and they put through a very rigorous a proper 6 months training, and then a shadow program before they're actually put in on live projects, right? So there is a learning curve that's being accounted for and things like that. So it's a disservice for me to bring in someone who is a rank fresher and put them up against these people who've had that 12-month span to kind of scale up. So I think the minimum criteria that we're looking at is 24 months of solid work experience. Right?
Fair enough. Yep, fair enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Because I think this clarity is going to help the audience today in terms of understanding that it is not really the freshers, but with at least the second job change or something like that. Because normally, a person sticks for like 24 months and then sort of thinks of moving and something. So that is, my friends, the entry point for Publicis Sapient. Like
and you can find the details on the careers page in publicissapient.com. And I urge you to read up about the company, to actually read up, because we have very, very descriptive job descriptions. You can totally envision yourself there. And I think it's important, right? So don't just go click on it randomly and say, hey, I want to apply to this. No.
Thank you very much, Taruna. So people, you've heard it from the lady that matters in terms of those 1400 openings are for 24 months rather, not years, months plus of experience. Go to the career website and read thoroughly. Please do not be lazy in just hitting that apply button. Do some research, do some introspection, and then go and write to Taruna or her team members. She's got about 50 of teammates in the office who are right there to help anybody with any kind of questions. So please do reach out. Again, a quick reminder, lots of questions coming in. Please do keep them coming in. We love questions and we love talking to people. So thank you very much for that. With that, I move on to the next panelist, my dear friend Gangadhar. And I am really excited to know about what Walmart as a company has to think about all the shenanigans that have been going on for the past 6 months here, and what is their sort of core thinking and where they're going with all of this technical hiring. So it's over to you, Gangadhar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Preeti. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be part of this session and connect with you all this evening. Josh Bersin, a management thought leader, said a couple of years ago, the war for talent is over and talent is won. This probably resonates well with some of my talent acquisition colleagues on the panel here, right? So who probably experience it every single day. Good talent is always in demand, right? Pandemic or otherwise. Today, because of this, what's happened is some of the industries have got impacted, and we are seeing a lot of additional candidates in certain spaces. But interestingly, we are also seeing candidate availability has shrinked in some spaces. There are some candidates who are saying, let me just defer my decisions and write this out and look at changing jobs when dust settles in. So in our experience today, candidates are really thinking about the strength of the brand, the stability of the company, the culture, the kind of benefits that they are offering, the growth opportunities in the long term and medium term. These have taken center stage. Earlier this list would be compensation and few other things, but we are seeing a dramatic shift in the candidate preferences in folks who are talking to us, right? So Walmart has been at the forefront of supporting our communities in times like these, whether it is some of these natural calamities or whatnot. Walmart reaches there even before some of the government agencies, in fact, right? So, and even this time, things haven't been any different. So what this means for us here in India is our hiring projections have not dropped. In fact, the numbers have actually gone up, and we've continued to hire very, very aggressively, right? So when I joined this company, we were that was about a year ago, we were about 3,000, and we'll probably end this year at 6,000 plus. And the kind of talent that we look for, the kind of scale that we hire for, this is unprecedented hiring for us, right? So a lot of opportunities, and we continue to hire unabated through these times, right? Coming to some of the challenges, right? Remote hiring has been a part of our talent acquisition processes for most companies. The telephonic interviews, the video interviews, Skype interviews here and there. We've all done that at some point. Now, this pandemic, what it's really done is pushed everything remote, and it's done it on such a large scale that it's given us a lot to think about. One advantage that talent acquisition teams have had is we've sort of been used to it. Digital has come to us naturally because of the way we operate from several years now, right? But the scale is something that was quite challenging. And, some of the things that we've had to think about during these times is, how do we ensure the same benchmarks for screenings and assessments? How do we bring in those whiteboarding tools or code pairing, tools, etc., to keep it consistent from an experience perspective and from a benchmark perspective, right? We've also had to invest a lot in social branding. We've had the privilege of bringing the candidates in, taking them through the buildings, the benefits, all the other things that we had to share. But in the absence of that, we've had to move to the social world to kind of really showcase and tell our stories. Just to give you a little perspective, our presence has been in Bangalore and Gurgaon until the beginning of this year. And Jan, we announced a center in Chennai. And barring literally 5 people, the entire site has been built virtually. I mean, none of them have actually met in person, and we managed to build that entire site virtually. And there's some fantastic work that's getting done out of there, right? So, and we continue to hire across all these 3 centers quite aggressively. And while we are doing all of this, we did not want to kind of deprioritize experiences, right? Candidate experiences and new hire experiences is something that we value a lot. And our leaders have been spending a lot of time to ensure that, new hires come in and settle in smoothly. They feel connected with the company and with the brand that they're working with, right? Our extended teams, like our IT teams and our facilities teams, have been going out of the way. And like Taruna said, 13th, the lockdown was announced, and 15th, we had almost 100 people join virtually. And I'm sure we'll all relate to those sleepless weekends that we had, where we managed to scramble it and make sure that our candidates did not, because it can be an intimidating situation for somebody who's joining new, right? You accepted an offer and this has happened. You don't know what's going to happen to your career and all of that. So driving that confidence, making sure things are smooth and giving them that confidence was extremely crucial, right? So it's been a very, very interesting year. And while this has presented a lot of personal challenges for a lot of us, but it's also brought in some opportunities for us to build resilient processes supported by the right technology and all of that, right? So, this has started out as a reaction to the pandemic, but I suspect that a lot of these practices will turn out to be a way of life post-COVID era. So that's our experience. And to reiterate, Walmart continues to grow quite aggressively here. We have several hundred positions open across Bangalore, Gurgaon, and Chennai. And I certainly hope to discuss possibility with some of you. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much. So people, you've heard it again. Scores and scores and scores of opportunities right here in these 4 top hiring companies that we have on the panel today, including Maersk, including Telstra, including Publicis Sapient, Walmart Labs India. So these are the 4 job sort of provider companies, and amongst these 4, at this point in time, we have anything up to the north of 2,500 open positions. Get those fingers clicking in quickly. Go to all the websites, go to the career pages, and there you have it. From here on, I'm going to take a different tack or track even, So we've spoken about companies, and we've spoken about how talent acquisition managers are looking for people. Where are those people, and who else better to answer than my friend here, who will be taking the podium in just a minute, because the important stuff here is we are talking about, talent which is mapped to our skill sets, which knows how to communicate, they know how to carry themselves and all the rest of it. But is that really the reality? We don't know that. So let's hear it from Nishant. But before that, Nishant, congratulations for your raise yesterday. Well done. A party is due, and that will happen later on, but warm welcome. But before that, yes, please. I am really looking forward to understand, the gap between the skill sets and what is normally seen in the applicants, and what are you doing to sort of bridge that? What is it that you are currently involved in? Please take us through that story. Over to you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. So, delighted to be on this panel. A lot of rich insights from the panelists before me. And thanks, Amit, Preeti, and Vivek for organizing this beautiful panel. So we are talking about tech hiring, challenges as well as opportunities. so taking a very big view of technology, technology is actually eating the world. And as you see in the stock market in US, I think 5 to 7 of the top tech companies, top 10 companies are tech companies. In India, even TCS or Reliance. So tech companies are actually becoming the most important companies, and India is becoming the developer powerhouse of the world, right? Because of the quality and quantity of talent that we produce. India literally has millions of engineers passing out.
We can hear you, Nishant. Carry on.
Oh,
Yep.
I think
You're good. You're good. You're good.
some issue with my laptop. Yeah. So India has millions of engineers passing out versus, let's say, 100,000 in US. So no other country can possibly compete with us. There are talks about Eastern Europe, but as candidates who are aspiring to be technologists, you don't have to worry at all about anything. The career path in technology is the one that is the most highest paid uh, in terms of others, and the most resilient to any external forces, compared to sales or marketing technology, because there's so much latent demand even in India, that this is one of the best career paths for any aspirant. And now we have, from the company side, we have around 1,500 to 2,000 global captive centers in India and growing rapidly. Then we have a very healthy Indian startup ecosystem. And what this leads to is a huge amount of jobs. On the other side, India actually has millions of engineers. So at the end of the day, both the parties are not really happy. Both the parties want more. The candidates want better jobs, and the companies want better candidates. And this is a paradox, because there's a huge gap. Even though there's a huge supply and a huge demand, the gap is huge. And this gap usually is supposed to be filled by colleges, where essentially, but from even my time, if I remember, I used to do programming on pen and paper, right? And so the tools and people used to teach programming on slides. So the colleges have not really adapted as well. Most of them are not, some of them are. The colleges are not really personalized, don't provide really personalized solution to the student, right? And what we try to do at Newton School is actually invest a lot of time and energy into the students over a 6-month period. So we have a very long program. It's not a just brush up. You have to understand how programming works, what is required in the industry, the communication skills, and multiple other modules. And to provide that, we also want to democratize it to people with very weak financial backgrounds, as well as people who do not have accessibility. So that is why we also have a pay after placement program. We are so confident of the quality of our candidates that we tell them, you come to our program. If you are selected through our initial process, then we'll train you for 6 months, and then when you get a job, then you can pay us back from your part of your salary. So that is an alignment between a company and the output that we are producing, which makes sure that we provide great candidates. And it's not a barrier. We have seen people whose parents were auto rickshaw drivers, people whose parents are farmers, to actually go through these hoops who couldn't have afforded training otherwise. And so I believe, we will soon, by next year, as Preeti mentioned, that we've recently raised funding. And if you're doing a good job actually creating value, funding would not be a problem in future. In a couple of years, I would not like to boast, but we aim to become in terms of students, the #1 college in India. That would be a strength. And we can instantly solve the hiring problem of any company. You can just come to us. There's no planning, nothing, and we match them very, very fast, because everything is built on tech. So that is on the company and student side. So there's a lot of efficiency. Even in the company side, people are worried about quality. I've talked to a lot of CHROs who have to go through 50, 100 profiles for just one candidate. It's like a conversion rate of 2 or 3%. So much time of such senior leaders are being wasted, engineers are being wasted. So quality is a big issue. Matching is not there. Even on portals, you get a lot of junk profiles, as Taruna was also mentioning. So in addition to that, the turnaround time. If you identify a great candidate, then that candidate joining again is a problem. So that's again a problem. And these agencies charge a lot of money as well, and price also becomes. So both sides want these things, and both sides have a lot of problems. So any company that comes in and solves these inefficiencies will actually help both sides and eventually, transform the whole Indian landscape. So we believe we are in a position to do that, and would love to talk more and elaborate later as we continue the discussion.
Thank you very much and all the best. And until and unless you dream, you can never make it a reality. So good job with that, Nishant. All the very best. And I'm sure there'll be loads and loads of conversation and loads of questions coming your way in our question and answer section as well. So, dear audience, now is the last chance for you to sort of internalize everything. Our panel has finished sharing their initial comments on the topic. We will be moving the baton on to you guys for the relay of starting this conversation. Before I hand off the baton to Vivek for the next proceedings, let me quickly bring in our dear friend Amit here, who will introduce himself very quickly in a couple of sentences, and then I will take over and hand over to PC. Over to you, Amit.
Thank you, Preeti. It's an awesome panel, and when I'm hearing them, I'm absolutely confident that this is the powerhouse that is going to get the Indian economy started. That's the only way this is going to happen. And what Nishant said, I think that's the way to go. You cannot go traditional or things which were working yesterday. Is going to be a completely new way of learning and a new way of getting things done. Something about me, I've been associated with LinkedIn Local India now for close on to 1 year. It's been an amazing journey. I'm a veteran. I retired in December last year. Just learning how to dip my toes in the waters that is the corporate world, and planning to have a long term here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my dear friend. It's an honor and a privilege to have your friendship and your support. With that, thank you very much, my dear panel, for sharing those views. It is over to our dear Vivek for the next section, which is the live question and answers. My dear VC, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. We move on to our second half of this show, and we will start with question and answers. The questions have just been coming in, so thank you, for this show of participation. Okay, I will start with one question, which I see is the most relevant today. And this question is from Aditya Singh. Aditya is asking, and I throw this question to all our panelists and companies. The question is, how has your talent acquisition strategy evolved as the world has become virtual? So anybody could start, and we could continue this, and then we'll ask the follow-up questions. Aditya or Rajan, any one of you want to take this first?
Sure, I can take a quick stab at it. I think the first part of the strategy, and I think it was beautifully covered by some of the conversations we had, especially what Tarun was talking about, was the fact that and there's a popular meme, I'm sure some of you would have seen it, where they said, what was the reason for your digital transformation? Was it technology, right? It wasn't, it was COVID. And honestly, it's had a huge impact. And I love what, Gangadhar was saying, that there are changes that it has brought in, which will not just last for now. These are going to pretty much change the way we work and do business right into the future, right? Just think about the possible potential for impact. I think the first ones are about the fact that, hey, we do not need a person to be physically in the office to be able to get work done, right? That's been the cornerstone of conversations about office efficiency, people being able to work and all of that for decades now. And we've now switched it over, and in 6 months, look at all of us having this conversation at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening, and working perfectly fine. We've been able to run this with pretty much no hiccups. So, I think that is a huge, I think it's a wake-up call for just not us, but the industry as a whole, about the fact that how much dependency can I apply, right, on a person's physical need to be in office? And that brings up a cascading set of things. Now, what all has it opened up for me? Another great question that's been coming up is on the dependency, especially for people with disabilities, right? A lot of the work that we've been doing has been about, we can't do this because I don't have the physical infrastructure available for it. But what if you took that away, right? Now, this opens up a fantastic set of people for us who, just because of the fact that we as an organization probably couldn't, get those facilities in place in the amount of time with the regulations that are available, But if technology was able to provide that solution, right, imagine the number of opportunities we're able to open up. So I'm not trying to answer the question, but it's just a snippet into the size of the solutions that are getting built here. So if you ask me, I think it's really opened up all of our minds. And I think we're looking at HR as I think it's really, all of us are looking at it and saying, wow, this is a really unique place to be in, because in the middle of a sort of a revolution, right? We don't know what's coming our way. We're living each day on the, on the merit of that particular day and the challenges and opportunities you're facing and solutioning for it. But what it does tell us is that there is so much that we haven't discovered. There's so much that we need to learn. So that'd be my, my probably quick response on it.
I think
Thank
great,
you, Rajan.
Rajan. If I can go next. So, you bring in a great point there. What is also done for us is, access to talent has dramatically gone up amongst all the gloom and doom. Forget other cities. We are in Kadubisnahalli. A person in Yeshwantpur would probably say, hang on a minute, that's too far and I would probably not want to apply. We just did a return to work campaign for women who had taken break and all of that, right? So there was a lady who told us, you know what, I would probably not have taken this up for another year at least had it not been for COVID. So there are some little bright sparks there. I can very well travel next year, but right now I have certain limitations, and she's with us working right now, and she's back in the mainstream, right? So those are things that we've been able to make happen, which otherwise possibly there would have been so many discussions and ifs and buts, and sometimes we would have been stuck in those conversations. But this has really accelerated some of these things and really changed the way we look at many of these elements. Yeah.
Great, Aditya or Taruna. Taruna, please.
Yeah, so I was going to say great points, Rajan and Gangadhar. Just adding to that, we've actually onboarded someone from Gangtok and Jaipur. If it was any other time, I would have had them relocate, baggage, family, kids, Bori Bistar kind of thing, either to Bangalore or to Gurgaon, saying, guys, come here. Right now, I have people logging in from their hometowns near Goa and someone sitting at Vishakhapatnam and things like that. We're all across India, right? So I would say it's really opened up that whole vista of, the whole geographical that thing that we had. We were caged in. And like I said, it's given back people 2-3 hours. You're in Kadubisnahalli, I'm in Outer Ring Road as well. So I hear you. We would be crawling, right? So yeah, it's given back, and people are able to focus on other things. So I am going to put a positive spin on it, because we have to. That's the only way to look at it, right? So what have they done with those 2-3 hours? Like I said, upskilling, yes, definitely. But there's been a lot of focus even on building yourself. Your emotional self, your brand, your personal brand, etc. Right? So I think that 1 hour gives you that time. You want to focus on other things. So we have a mental awareness sessions that runs every day. You can log in whenever you're free. We have a Vox page that if you aren't free at that particular time, you can replay that and actually learn about yoga. You learn about breathing techniques to handle your stress and things like that. There's a lot of focus on emotional well-being, right? So I think these are important takeaways. We wouldn't have even addressed these problems if not for COVID, right? It's really brought that in the forefront. And it also shows your resilience, your tenacity, that really comes out. And if you're not that strong, even that's okay. We have help for that. So I think it's wonderful how companies are gearing up to really value their people, their employees, saying, I will spend this extra amount so that I can get you these resources. You're not in office, it's okay. We'll make sure that we give you all the resources. So Publicis Sapient has actually announced an allowance for internet at home, because I think tech challenges in terms of connectivity is one of the biggest obstacles we face. Like I said, we're across India. And when you have 15,000 people, you have different kinds of problems. So the scale and the variety of problems is that much more. So, we've really had to tackle these and think on our feet and make it a viable problem, so that, because you're setting the precedent for something to follow. So when you set a policy, it has to be applicable in the long run, etc. So it's really made us think. It's really, taken away those blinders. So interesting times we live in.
Thank you, Taruna. Aditya, would you like to add to that?
No, just really quickly, right? I think for us, it was a bit of an introspective, take on it as well. A lot of the great pointers shared by Taruna, shared by Rajan as well. We were doing a lot of this already. If you think about assessments, if you think about virtual interviews, etc., and also if you think about the kind of flexibility we provide to our employees too. I mean, especially as we started off back in 2018 through 2019 as well, smaller teams, we didn't really have a lot of the leadership based out of Bangalore, and they were they're mostly based either in the UK or back in Denmark. And so it wasn't really physically necessary for employees to be based, at the office all day long. And so there was a lot of flexibility that we were already providing. So I think this situation has helped us formalize a lot of these, right? Formalize a lot of these plans, kind of put them in place, and continue with best practices that we kind of identified a couple of years ago anyhow. So yeah, that's probably what I'd add to this.
Thank you so much, Aditya. For Nishant, I'll come to you with a different question. And also, we have a lot of questions that have come in, so I think we'll gotta run and answer as many as possible. So Nishant, this question comes from Shweta Singh. She's asking, how do you manage the insecurity and uncertainty towards future of job-seeking candidates in current scenario and global economy is a bit shaken up? Why I ask you this question is because you interact with students, hundreds and thousands of students day in and day out, and you see those insecurities upfront. So how do you think we can answer this?
Right. So essentially, you just have to do 2 or 3 basic things, right? One, at the end of the day, if you are a candidate who is a quality software developer, like nobody can stop you. You have to become a great software developer. Companies will open their doors. They will eventually change their rules. We will we will coordinate with them. You have to become great software developers. How do you go do that? One, you use a lot of resources online. So the first thing is identifying good companies. What are the kind of companies that you want to go into? The second is, what do they require? What do they require? You can go to their career pages and understand what are the skill sets that they require. And the third is, how do you get there? A lot of times colleges have good infrastructure, but a lot of times they don't, right? So you have to figure out how do you get there. And we believe that in the Indian ecosystem, for most of the students, this how do you get there is either broken or too expensive, right? So that is where someone like a Newton School comes into the picture. But having said that, on your own, you can do a lot of good projects. You can have a set of mentors who are in these companies. Just pick up mentors and do a lot of projects. Become good developers is the only thing. There is no uncertainty once you are a good developer. 5-6 people will be running after you. So I think, the focus should be on becoming great developers.
Thank you for those points, Nishant. We move on to the next question. I'm combining the 2 questions here. The question comes from Raghu, Kemal, and Shwetan. The questions are how recruitment process has changed in these tough times. I think we've answered a bit of it. Shweta Singh is asking, what do you think is the future of technology from recruitment standpoint? What do you think is going to be the hot skills in the next 2-3 years? So I think I'll let Aditya answer that question.
I think that is $1 million question, right? And the question that is on a lot of people's minds. I don't see a dramatic shift, to be honest. I think a lot of the hot skills as such, which continue to be rampant right now, I think will also continue to be good, at least for the foreseeable future. Although, as a lot of companies, including our own, right, as Musk is focusing a lot on building digital products, digitizing, a whole industry, not just a company, but really leading change for a whole industry. I think that opens up whole avenue of options across technology, and that could either be that could be from an e-commerce perspective, could be online, mobile, etc. So I would say that, and of course a lot more focus now also by way of data, right? And not just your traditional analytics or reporting or insights, but as you think more futuristically as well, by way of leveraging data, democratizing data or monetizing data as well, building analytical products, building data BI products as well, products that can help drive more growth and revenue for a company. So I would say those areas will continue to be really important. I'm fairly certain, as will information security. I mean, I think all of these go hand in hand, right? For companies that deal with a huge ton of data, it's also important for them to be secure. And so information security, network security as well, I think will continue to pop up. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, some really cool stuff that's happening in the blockchain, AI, IoT, and robotics space as well. Even more so now in the pandemic, where companies are looking at ensuring that they have the right size, the right scales, a lot of focus on optimization too. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Aditya, for that. We have a question here. It seems to be popular. People are voting for it. I take this question to Gangadhar. This question is about veterans. I see there are veterans here today. So the question is from Abhay Bhavsar. He's asking veterans, especially seniors, may not come with the technical skill sets required by companies of the day. However, they are extremely adaptable and have great ability to transform knowledge into practice. Is the industry ready to ignore this gap considering the leadership experience that veterans leverage?
I think just the amount of interest in veterans from the recruiting community talks about it, right? Over the last few years, I've personally, a couple of my college friends were in fact veterans who've come back and they've moved into the industry and been exceptionally successful, right? There are roles where there are leadership roles, where there are program project management roles. And I'm sure none of us in the corporate world have had that kind of experience of being out there in the battlefield and managing stressful situations and all that, right? So I think those skills are invaluable, and there are enough roles in the industry which should align with that, right? One thing that I think has worked fairly well is also, I've seen some of these finishing schools where some of the IIMs have taken up this initiative of putting together courses and getting them to align with some of the corporate needs and all of that, right? So I think the industry is ready, and I've seen strong interest, at least in some of the organizations that I've worked with, and the people that I've worked with, the veterans, have been incredibly successful.
Great. Thank you, Gangadhar, for those points. Okay, I'll move mic now to Amit for the next set of questions.
Before that, may I quickly remind everyone that I am launching a poll. Audience, this is a poll for you guys because we would like to know what you think of the webinar in terms of the rest of it. So I'm going to launch the poll and pass the baton on to my dear Colonel friend right here. So just give me 1 second. You can take your time from now until the end of the webinar. So just to sort of let you know that it's here and it needs your attention at some point. Over to you, Amit. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti and Vivek. The next question, I'll be giving it to Rajan. This is coming in from Sabadra Gupta. What the question is basically pertaining if a person has knowledge in multiple domains, something like Java, in cloud, and in the telecom sector also, would this person find himself or herself suitable for multiple roles? If so, how can they encash the situation or sort of maximize the benefit?
Right. Great question, and I think it's something that a lot of people also have trouble with, deciding on which part of my career do I want to focus on. And I'm going to also try and answer a little bit of what Gangadhar did very well, which is even when it comes to veterans as well as people who are working in, who have multiple interests. I think you need to find a little bit of what is your ken. I mean, pick the space that you actually enjoy. And that, I think, is a big differentiator versus just doing things from the lens of popularity. I know, for example, I know we have Amit here as a veteran, and I'm sure he brings some fantastic skills to the fore, right? My point is identify that, focus on it, and figure out which part of the technology world actually suits that. Because, and Nishant, I'm sure you're already doing this, so Nishant could be a great person to have this conversation on. But I would say figure out which of these three you like, right? It's always great to have an ancillary skill. It's like I love recruitment, but doesn't mean I don't understand the world of compliance or the world of PHRBP. But what I love most is recruitment. That's why I'm doing this. So identify that. Like we said, if you're good, a job will find you.
The next question would be to Nishant. This is coming in from Arun Khanchi. He says, good evening, everyone. I'm just a fresher. I'm a fresher, just graduated from a tier 3 college from IT background with no experience of coding. Now that's a bit surprising. IT with no coding, because let's just say I was not serious. So he's very frank about it, just woke up and everything. So what he is basically trying to ask, and quite a few other people, how do they get their coding game up? Quite a few questions are about how do they get into the GitHub scene? How do they make their repositories? How do they get noticed? Something that you also talked about, please.
Right. Exactly. So, so as a tier 3 college student, there's also a lot of times apprehensions that the bigger companies wouldn't come to our campus, and that's also a problem for the companies because they cannot go to 200 or 300 campuses. There are 3,000 campuses in India, so they also face these issues. You have to understand that. So, so what has happened is the first step is to increase the talent that you actually have. For that, you'll need a path. The easiest path is in your ecosystem, find someone who is good at it. Go through LinkedIn, go to your alumni, find a mentor and build a lot of projects. These are the only two important things. What Newton School does is there are other companies like Newton School who do this better than that, because we provide a structured path. In very simple, as an example, in the first 3 weeks of Newton Schools, you will be doing as many data structure and algorithm questions that you would do in 4 years of college, right? So companies like us provide a much more structured path. So if you have, if you can pay to get tuition somewhere, then you can try that. But I would strongly consider, if you are my brother or sister, I would consider ask you to consider Newton School, because we actually take you over that 6-month period to become better than a 4-year college experience, right? So that is one thing. Once you have that quality, then it's our job how we make sure that you also are in the eyes of the best companies. So just one example I'll give. So there's Anubha from Tejpur University. She was the topper of the college, very bright girl. But how many companies do have an opportunity to go to Tejpur? So she got a job of 2 lakhs per annum from an IT company. Through Newton School, she was able to get a 9 lakh per annum job from a US-based company because she was that good. And now after, as she had access through Newton School. In a prior question, due to the pandemic, the companies have performed extremely fast. They've just very quickly switched off all their processes across hundreds of campuses. So again, first is the quality. Either go through mentors and projects or come to something like Newton School. Second, we will figure it out for you. You just focus on building as many projects as you can.
Thank you for that, Nishant. And I think there's another question which is from Deepthi Verma. This is for Taruna. She says, it's awesome to hear that Sapient is an early adopter and leader of tech and processes. Would you give priority to live project experience on GitHub for a 2+ year experience? And will prospective hires for Sapient be considered on that particular thing, along with the tech upskill and a reskill?
Absolutely. So, like I said earlier, right? When we look at developers, we do ask if they have a GitHub account, and most of my team of recruiters are all engineers, right? So some of them can even code. And as Rajan said, we're in this recruitment space because we're super passionate about it. And I really love the passion that these people bring. They were actually techies, and they felt that they could contribute more because they understand tech needs, and they can actually translate that into the way they source profiles and in the conversations that they have with people, right? So if someone has a GitHub account and they've been coding for the last 2 years, maybe the experience is not live and in a formal setup, but we can definitely take a look.
Thank you for that. And we have one question which I'll pose to Aditya. This is coming in from Sangini Manshramani. I take it that this is from a 2-year, second-year MBA HR student without work experience. What they're asking here is, how can I improvise on my skill set that would help me work in the HR domain in the coming few months?
Well, nice to hear a non-tech related question. So Sangini, I would say, firstly, it's great to hear, that HR is obviously something you're interested in. I would say, it's such an incredibly wide, you have an immense amount of resources available at your disposal. I'd actually like to I'd like to pull on a thread that I think Nishant spoke about just a while back, right? The humane connection, identifying, a mentor, I think certainly helps, especially if you've had experience, with internships, perhaps in your case, if you haven't had that opportunity as yet, you kind of try and build that network on LinkedIn, try and reach out to organizations that are in fact hiring for internship kind of roles. You kind of slowly build that network and try and then also connect with perhaps friends, or connect with your seniors or your peers who have that experience, right? And I think once you start building that network, you build that humane connection as well. You kind of these are multiple pieces of the puzzle. You slowly put these together, build your own brand. I think that kind of helps with your own visibility, and your learning curve and your learning agility kind of goes through the roof. Really quickly, what I would suggest is, if you can think about that one area or a couple of areas that you're super passionate about, right? And because HR is incredibly wide, there's rewards, benefits, talent acquisition, and so forth. Try and think a little about what excites you most, and then kind of create that path toward that. I hope this helped.
Thank you for that, Aditya. And I would hand over to Preeti after just this one last question. It's from Kaptan Singh. But before taking on this question from Kaptan, I'll just answer a slight bit about what we had as a point which was mentioned about veterans. And there was another point about how they can sort of upskill or reskill themselves better. I have done a 1-year course on Python. I have a strong background in C++, but it doesn't mean I'll ever go into coding. What it simply means is that if I were to lead a team, I will know who's shamming and who's working really hard. It's all about finding your own niche, as was very clearly told by Rajan. You have to find out what you're good at and get paid for that. Otherwise, you can have a lot of passion. Passion is good. But what Nishant was trying to say was, use that passion for what it can bring you. Money on the table is what's going to make the world go round, especially in this COVID crisis. And that's a question from Kaptan, Kaptan Singh, which I'll hand over to Gadadhar. If you can just have a look at this one. He says, good evening, panel. Can you reflect on organizations' plan to hire fresh MBA graduates, especially when there are more experienced professions? I take it that he's written professionals available who are capable of hitting the ground running. I think he's mentioning that people with already experience, not just freshers. Also considering the overall fall in manpower requirements in an organization because of digitization, would such a decision make sense?
Sure. So unfortunately at Walmart Global Tech, we don't do too much of non-tech hiring. We are a pure tech shop, and that's how our current growth also has been. But to answer that question, generally, there are roles, right? I mean, there are roles where you would need fresh talent to bring in. So that, fresh talent is not just from a cost perspective, right? It's also diversity. Fresh people out of college bring in a different perspective, different value to the table, and so do experienced folks. So it's about how the pyramids are structured in each organization and what value at each level that the person brings in. And I'm sure each one of us have sort of figured that out. And there are roles at each level for relevant people at all times.
Thank you for that. Over to you, Preeti.
Thank you very much, and amazing insights. Quickly, dear audience, it is inhumanly impossible to take all the 25 questions that are still lying unanswered in the question and answer box. A humble request, all of us are accessible. We are open to connect on LinkedIn. Please reach out. Do not take the lazy way out. Write a personalized note. Reference the webinar today. Say why you want to connect to whoever you are wanting to connect to, and then dive deeper. I am the last person to be asking, maybe asking a 3, 4 more questions, but that will still not be 25. So apologies, and straight dive into the questions for me right here. Let's see what have we got. Right, so Aroni Saha, and this is for Rajan. How does your company plan to survive in the ever-changing telecom landscape in India? What are your expansion plans?
All right. Great question. And thankfully, we aren't operating in India, so I don't have that problem at this point of time. But what we need to understand is telecom is a hotly, combated topic globally. It's not easy to be in the telecom space because it's not just from the perspective of the fact that prices are going down extremely quickly. Technology is, I'm sure the speed at which technology is picking up is going up very fast. So a couple of things. I'm just going to talk about two specific areas. One is 5G, right? Telstra is one of the earliest adopters of 5G in the world, right? I think it's the second country. Australia is the second country after the UK, which is doing some fairly serious work in terms of 5G. For example, just a couple of pointers. I think we've already covered 53 different cities, and by basically June of 2021, we would have covered 75% of Australia in 5G. And the difference in 5G is just a very simple thing, right? Is the fact that it's about 10 times, it's anywhere between 10 to 100 times faster than what data is right now, which means for us to have IoT capabilities, for us to have any kind of even just the number of devices we can have in a square kilometer, right? Currently, it's about 4,000 devices per square kilometer. Once we get to 5G, it's going to be close to 1 million. All right. So it just opens up possibilities in several areas. So I think that's where the real hinge is, right? In being probably one of the first movers in terms of technology, picking up on that, and not stopping there. Because the moment you stop, you know that in this world, you're already being overtaken by someone else. So remember that, don't just stop there. Think about where you want to build out. And I think that's the strategy that Telstra has, right? So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much for that. And for the next question, it will be a combination of two. And I am going to be coming to Taruna and Adi for that. This is essentially about gaps. Ajay Bhavsar and Piyush Mahajan are essentially talking about how are laid off candidates taken in the industry if they are upskilling and are progressive. As a career coach, and this is Piyush saying, I work with people who have lost their jobs, and this is one of the major concerns they have. So Taruna, I will come to you first, and then I will move to Adi. Thank you.
Sure. So, folks, there is no shame in, being let go of, or, this is for no fault of yours. It's a pandemic that's hit globally, and really, there's nothing for you to, take it personally at all. It's happened across the globe. I've seen it once before in 2010 when it happened. Now it's happening again. We've had a lot of applicants who've actually been impacted by COVID, and we do not treat them any differently. You'll still have to go through the process. If you're technically competent and qualified, you're going to get through it. So there is no bias as such to say that, hey, you've been impacted, I doubt your performance, is it because you're a poor performer? No, this has impacted departments, it has impacted projects. So I don't think there's anything personal. I think you need to be upfront and transparent about it. And actually, I would say it's going to open out many more opportunities because you're going to be an immediate joiner. And in especially in a consulting world, people think that everything that they need, they wanted it yesterday. So if I can, present a candidate who can join in the next 1 week or so, that's like an added bonus. So I think you should positively spin the fact that you've been impacted. Use that time to upskill yourself. Use that time to, get better at what you do, and find that niche, like it's been said earlier. And I'm sure that you're going to land a very, very good job. And trust me, the more you interview, the better you get.
Thank you for that, Taruna. Are they your views on the same topic? Thank you.
No, I think Taruna, shared some excellent points. I would actually, go a step further and say, just with this webinar alone, I think there are an immense number of opportunities out there, right? And honestly, the need of the hour is, top talent really quickly. And if you can join us immediately, then I don't really think people are going to care if you've come from Mars, if you've been laid off, due to COVID. I don't think it's going to matter as much. But I will just re-emphasize what Taruna spoke about: be authentic, be open, because this is going to work on a trust basis, right? And that's how it always works. So yeah, that's probably what I'd add to that.
Thank you very much, Adi, for that. And my next question is coming to two folks, Gangadhar and then Rajan. Here is Shweta Singh asking, how do you see the way of working post-COVID? And not only Shweta, I think there's a bunch of people out there who are stuck with this question. So please enlighten us. Gangadhar, coming to you first. Thank you.
Sure. It's probably never going to be the same, right? In my view, I think we've hit a new normal, and I don't think there is something called we'll go back to the pre-COVID era. And the way we see things, I think, until the vaccine arrives or there is a sustainable solution to all of this, we all will continue to work from home. But at the same time, you all have to understand that, at least I personally don't see this completely working from home forever, because we are ultimately social beings. We believe in connecting with each other. There are a whole bunch of people joining new, and if you don't resonate with your peers, with your colleagues, and the best learning, answering some of the previous question, happens by learning from others, learning from someone sitting next to you, right? So we may not exactly go back to 100% back in office. We may not go back to completely working from home. I believe eventually the industry will find a new equilibrium, a new normal, where it's going to be a blended model, where there is enough flexibility for all of us to operate from home and find time for the near and dear ones and do things that you like and enjoy, but at the same time do justice to our jobs and stay productive and contribute to the organization as well. That's my 2 cents. Rajan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about probably the obstacles, right? And I know we've all been very nice, and I think we've stuck to the positive part of this, but I think it's important that we recognize that there are some obstacles. One of them very simply being, with all of us having to work on video, things do not happen in parallel. You can't multitask. It is only in series, which means if you have to build a relationship, you have to make the time and effort to actually build a relationship. That goes for a person inside the building, that goes for a candidate, right? What this also means is that the amount of time you spend on doing all of these things is that much more. The other offshot of it is, for a new person, even for a person like myself, having joined a company, building relationships by walking around no longer exists, right? And if you're a social person, that becomes very difficult if you have to have a pointed conversation. Imagine me trying to have a conversation with each and every one of these people on a particular day. That's 9 hours gone. Whereas if we probably did this over a session like this, life becomes a lot simpler. It's an oversimplification, but at an organizational level, the ramifications of it are large, right? The second part of it is that, and this is a good thing, is that I think the entire community is becoming a lot more aware of the fact that we need more than physical interaction to decide on candidates. So technology is playing a big part in assessments. And I think all of us would have faced challenges with people probably not taking technology assessments, or, whatever they may be, right? The different coding assessments that are available. That has been always a difficult point, because 50% absorption, 40% absorption for people to take the test thinking, hey, I could get a job without an assessment. And now, right, what Nishant and all of us are trying to do here is to say, if you can't code, and if we can't tell you can't code, all right, getting a job opportunity is going to get harder. And that way, I think it's also putting the focus back on do tech and do it properly, right? So learn to code at a foundational level. Don't rest on the laurels of your ability to just be able to speak through it. It's not, it's not coding on paper. This is actual coding. So I think these are a couple of things that may be slightly harder for candidates, but I really think in the long term, that is the way to go.
Thank you very much for that, Rajan. And quickly, just a reminder, we are about 5 minutes away from the official close of this webinar. So Arun, please reach out to Nishant for those specific questions that you have about reskilling, upskilling, and your observation about taking that test from Newton School and everything else. Sunil, please reach out to the specific panelists that you were wanting the answer, for your transferable skills. Also, Amit will be able to address that for you. Time enough for last sort of comments in terms of any advice to the people out there today. So we have a mixed bunch of people. As you have seen, they're freshers from the HR, they're fresher techies here, there are veterans here, there are women technologists here, and a whole spectrum. So I will come to you, Nishant. What do you think is your advice in just a couple of words? And I'm just going to take like a whole rota of advice before I close off the evening. Over to you. Thank you.
So the first and the most important advice that I'll give to you is to believe in yourself, right? So we are always thinking about tier 3 college se hai, or maybe we are disadvantaged in one way or the other. During our time, across hundreds of students, we just saw, again, a son of an auto rickshaw driver who had lost his livelihood due to COVID, coming from a very poor background, now is handling the whole livelihood of the family. So no matter where you are coming from, keep fighting. And tech jobs are one of the best jobs. And there's a lot of demand. So have confidence in yourself, go to your mentors and figure out a way to fight through this and get into a job. We at Newton School would be happy to be a part of your journey if we can.
Thank you very much. I will come to Gangadhar with this. Over to you, Gangadhar.
Sorry, there was some problem. Priti, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, it's just your parting advice to the aspirants today. And they're from a whole bunch of things. So whatever you think should be done or should not be done, up to you.
Sure. So I think, stitching together some of the points that we already made, right? I think it's extremely important to find your mojo. Personal example, I started out as a techie, as a software engineer myself. When you do your engineering, you're like, fly a rocket, NASA, change the world and all that. But when I got in, I was changing the colors of buttons and all that, which wasn't really exciting. So fortunately, I had a career change and got into this and been enjoying this ever since, right? So that is very crucial, right? Don't just get into it. Oh, my friend is getting there, so I need to do this. Oh, he got that much salary, I need to go there. That's not how it's going to work, because it's going to fade away very, very quickly, right? It's important to take a pause, find what is it that makes you take, and what is it that's going to make you wake up every day and say, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to do this, right? When you do that, I think there is enough support system. The companies like Nishant's, and there are enough companies like us who are trying to upskill talent and bring in fresh talent, and all of that will fall into place. You just got to know what you want to do and stay on it, and good things will come your way.
Thank you very much. Taruna, it is over to you, my dear friend, for your sound advice.
So I think I resonate with Nishant and Gangadhar. The first thing is your attitude. You need to work on it. Be positive, be resilient, be agile. If there's a setback, it's just temporary. So they say water always finds its level, right? So, if you're good, you're going to get another job and things will start looking up, and always believe that this too shall pass. Upskill, use this time wisely, attend interviews, don't shy away from being your authentic self and being transparent and honest. It's, when you come across that way, it makes it that much easier for everybody, right? Please work on your core skill. Identify whatever is core to your being, to your resume. Go deep into it. Just don't skim the surface, because like Rajan said, all of us have that HackerRank test. All of us have a coding assessment. I even have a paired programming exercise. right? So if you're going to fudge something initially, you're going to be caught somewhere else. So it's just better to be upfront and honest about the whole approach and be clean. And that cleanliness in code, logical thought process, and approach to anything is going to set you apart, right? So your attitude, your is also going to set you apart. So I'd like to close with that.
Thank you very much. And I will come
Thank
over
you.
to Rajan for his 2 bits of advice or not to do anything that you
Sure.
think at all.
Couple of things for especially people who are starting their careers, right? There's this concept of spray and pray, which is, I will try and apply to as many jobs as possible, and hopefully one of them works. It does work. I'm not disagreeing with you, but you know what companies love even more? The effort you take in learning more about the organization. Make the effort to find out what works about that company, why it's special, and what makes you and that company even more special. Build that relationship, and I promise you, all right, you will get a lot more attention than all the other people who are spraying and praying, because that shows intent, that shows clarity of thought, that shows the fact that, hey, I want to do this and this is why I want to do it. Imagine as a recruiter, if I see that, I will say, you know what, I want to talk to this guy even if he doesn't know anything, right? Because I like his attitude, and Taruna touched upon that. So make the effort to learn where you're going, where you want to go into, and obviously all the advice till now, but also be more focused about where you're trying to apply and what kind of work you're trying to do towards it.
Thank you very much. And last but not the least, it's over to you, Aditya, for your piece of advice. Thank you.
Sure. So, as recruiters, and I'm sure a lot of my friends and panelists will agree, we always believe that there's a candidate out there, right? No matter how tough a requirement, no matter how tough a skill we're working on, a hard to skill, niche skill, whatever you want to call it, there's always a candidate out there. I would, my suggestion would be flip that around. As a candidate, you have to believe that there is a role out there. You have to believe that there is an opening out there, for you. Right? No real rocket science here. Great points by Tarna, Rajan, everyone else. Have a positive frame of mind. If there are setbacks, just kind of will yourself through it. Right? But stay practical, upskill yourself. And sooner or later good things happen, right? And you've just got to believe. So yeah, that's probably what I'd leave them with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that, my dear friends, was LinkedIn Local India Online, powered by Maersk. Technical hiring opportunities and obstacles. Time to say thank you to all the audience for being with us here today, for investing your precious 90 minutes listening to all of us. Please do reach out to any panelists that you would like to connect to via LinkedIn personalized message. Don't be lazy. Lots of questions still out there. Please get them answered, and we are happy to facilitate those connections and those conversations for you. It's all about dialogue, it's all about conversation. So let it start and let it continue. With that, there is something which is coming around the corner. Probably LinkedIn Local India will be going physical, time and situation permitting, November/December in 3 locations in India, that is Gurgaon, Bangalore, and Bombay. So watch out for those announcements. Until then, be very safe and do take good care. This is your host Preeti Chaudhary, along with my co-host Vivek Chadha and Colonel Amit Verma, and all our dear panelists friends, saying adios, sayonara, until next time, take good care. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining.